Before starting the story, I would like to say that 99% of you are not subscribers, while only 1% are. At 1,000 subscribers, I will post a series of special stories for you. Subscribe now.
The year 2247 marked a time of exploration and conflict among the stars. In a distant sector of the galaxy, the planet Viridia served as a vibrant hub for interstellar research due to its rich, biodiverse ecosystems. However, this natural paradise was not immune to the galaxy's darker forces. Alira, a young Vorn warrior and skilled pilot, navigated her reconnaissance craft through Viridia's lower orbit. Her mission was straightforward: to gather intelligence on suspected pirate activity that had been disrupting supply routes to the outer colonies. As a member of the elite Vorn Confederacy Scouts, she was well-trained and equipped for the task. Her scales, a brilliant hue of azure, shimmered as she maneuvered the controls with a deft touch. Suddenly her ship shuddered violently. Warning alarms blared, and the console in front of her flashed red, indicating severe damage to the propulsion systems. She had been blindsided by a concealed pirate drone, which had launched a barrage of plasma missiles at her. The impact was devastating, crippling her spacecraft and sending it spiraling toward Viridia. With the ground rapidly approaching and her options dwindling, Alira managed to steer the failing craft toward the luminous forest, a vast expanse of towering luminescent trees and thick undergrowth known for its remote and uncharted territories. Her ship tore through the canopy, branches and leaves igniting from the friction of her descent. The crash was catastrophic. The ship's hull buckled under the force, and the cockpit became a prison of twisted metal and broken glass. Alira, strapped tightly in her seat, felt a sharp pain shoot through her body as she was thrown against her restraints. Her warrior instincts kept her conscious long enough to assess her situation. She was wounded, alone, and her communications were destroyed. Her survival training kicked in. Alira released herself from the cockpit with effort, her movements hindered by her injuries. Dragging herself away from the wreckage, she found a small clearing. Her scales, now dulled with dust and her own blood, hardly reflected the sun's light that filtered through the dense foliage above. Miles from the crash site, Jake, a human student from Earth, was knee-deep in his research. His parents, diplomats on Viridia, had instilled in him a profound respect for alien cultures and ecosystems. His project, to study the unique flora of Viridia, had brought him to the outskirts of the luminous forest. As he collected samples, his eyes caught the unusual sight of smoke rising in the distance. Curiosity piqued. He packed his equipment and set off toward the source, unaware that his life was about to intertwine with Alira's in a profound and unexpected way. The suns of Viridia were just beginning to descend towards the horizon, casting elongated shadows and painting the forest in hues of orange and gold as Jake approached the source of the smoke. The crisp air was tinged with the acrid smell of burning electronics and scorched vegetation. As he neared, the outline of a spacecraft, alien in design and partially engulfed by the forest's embrace, came into view. His heart raced with the realization that he had stumbled upon a crash site. With caution, he approached the wreckage. His mind raced with possibilities. Was it a survey drone, a smuggler's craft, or something more sinister? As he drew closer, he noticed a trail of disrupted undergrowth and followed it, leading him to a small clearing. There, amidst the fallen leaves and broken branches, lay Alira. Jake's training in xenobiology hadn't prepared him for this moment. Alira was unlike any Vorn he had studied about. Her scales, though dulled and smeared with dirt and blood, still showed hints of their natural vibrant blue. She lay motionless, save for the shallow rise and fall of her chest indicating she was still alive. Overcoming his initial shock, Jake knelt beside her, checking for signs of consciousness. Her eyes fluttered open, startling him with their bright, piercing quality, full of wariness and pain. He spoke softly, introducing himself and explaining his presence, trying to reassure her that he meant no harm. Alira's response was a faint hiss, a common Vorn expression of distress. Recognizing the severity of her condition, Jake opened his field kit. He administered basic first aid, applying antiseptic to clean her wounds and bandages to stop any bleeding. He also injected her with a broad-spectrum antibiotic, formulated for both human and common alien physiology, to ward off infection. As Alira's breathing stabilized, she began to communicate in halting galactic standard, expressing both gratitude and confusion. She explained she was a scout from the Vorn Confederacy, and her ship had been ambushed. With her communication devices destroyed, she felt utterly stranded. Jake, seeing her distress, offered his own communicator to call for help. However, Alira explained that without her ship's beacon, a rescue signal would not reach her fleet. Understanding her dilemma, Jake made a decision. He offered to help her reach his field camp, where they could use his equipment to send a stronger distress signal and provide her with better medical care. Despite her initial distrust, Alira recognized the necessity of relying on this human. With Jake's support, she slowly stood, her body aching with every movement. Together, they began the careful journey back to his camp, navigating through the twilight-lit forest. As they walked, an unlikely alliance formed, born from necessity but fostered by Jake's unwavering determination to help a stranger from the stars. The journey back to Jake's field camp was slow and fraught with challenges. The luminous forest, usually vibrant and teeming with life, seemed to watch them with silent, glowing intensity. Every step was a test of endurance for Alira, but Jake's steady presence kept her moving. He supported her weight as much as he could, guiding her around the more treacherous terrain and undergrowth thick with bioluminescent vines that lit their path. As they traveled, Jake shared stories about Earth and his studies on Viridia. Alira listened, her mind distracted from the pain by his descriptions of vast oceans and mountain ranges far different from her homeworld's arid landscapes. In return, Alira shared insights into Vorn culture, tales of her people's warrior ethos, their technological advancements, and their deep sense of honor. Despite the pain, a mutual respect began to blossom between the two. Upon reaching his camp, Jake helped Alira settle into a makeshift medical area he set up with more sophisticated equipment than what his field kit could offer. He monitored her vital signs, applied better wound dressings, and made sure she was hydrated and nourished. Over the next few days, as Alira's condition stabilized, the two found themselves not just coexisting, but actually cooperating for their mutual benefit. Jake's camp was equipped with a high-powered communication array, intended for his research, but capable of much more. Together, they worked on boosting its signal strength, aiming to pierce through the dense electromagnetic interference of Viridia's atmosphere to send a distress call to any Vorn ships that might be in range. Alira, with her technical expertise, made adjustments to the equipment, optimizing it to match Vorn communication protocols. Their efforts were interrupted one afternoon by a sudden rustling from the underbrush. A Viridian razorbeak, a large, predatory bird known for its aggressive nature and razor-sharp feathers, emerged, drawn by the scent of food, or perhaps the strange electromagnetic signals emanating from their equipment. Jake froze, knowing the creature's deadly reputation. Alira, despite her weakened state, instinctively positioned herself between the beast and Jake. Using a combination of distraction tactics and some of Jake's research equipment, they managed to deter the razorbeak long enough to escape to safety. This encounter sealed their fledgling trust into a solidified alliance. Jake was impressed by Alira's courage and quick thinking, even when injured, and Alira began to truly appreciate the human's resourcefulness and kindness. As the days passed, their collaboration grew stronger. Each evening, after their survival chores and technical endeavors, they would sit by the campfire. Alira taught Jake basic Vorn language phrases, and Jake introduced her to human music from his portable player, sharing songs that spanned genres from classical to contemporary. These moments, filled with learning and laughter, underscored an emerging friendship, one that transcended species and circumstances. Their bond deepened, rooted in shared experiences and the unique situation that had thrown them together, turning them from strangers into comrades facing the unknown together. Several days after their initial encounter, the modified communication array finally bore fruit. Early one morning, as Viridia's twin suns cast a pale light over the forest, the communicator crackled to life. Alira, who had been dozing fitfully near the device, awoke to the sound of her commander's voice calling her name through the static. Jake rushed over, his face alight with a mixture of relief and anticipation. Alira responded to the call, her voice weak but clear, explaining their situation and location. The relief in her commander's voice was palpable as he confirmed that a rescue ship was already in orbit and would be dispatched immediately to their coordinates. As they prepared for the rescue team's arrival, Alira turned to Jake with a solemn expression. She expressed her gratitude for his help, stating that without him, she would not have survived. Jake, feeling a bittersweet pang at the thought of parting ways with his unexpected friend, suggested a visit to Earth, hinting at the potential for further diplomatic and cultural exchanges between their species. Alira considered this, her eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and excitement. The rescue team arrived within hours, touching down in a clearing not far from Jake's camp. The crew, fellow Vorn warriors, were initially wary of Jake, their eyes flickering over him with a guarded intensity. However, as Alira introduced him and narrated their shared ordeal, their demeanor shifted from suspicion to respect. As they prepared to depart, Jake's own diplomatic envoy arrived, having been alerted by his earlier communications. Surprised to find him not only alive, but aiding an alien soldier, they were initially skeptical. However, Jake vouched for Alira's integrity and bravery, sharing stories of how they had worked together to survive. Impressed and intrigued by the tale, the envoy discussed the possibility of using this incident as a stepping stone for deeper relations with the Vorn Confederacy. Alira, faced with the option to return to her fleet or continue engaging with humanity, made a bold decision. She requested her commander to allow her a diplomatic mission to Earth. She saw an opportunity not just for herself, but for her people to bridge the gap between their species and humans. Her commander, recognizing the unique bond formed under such extraordinary circumstances, agreed, seeing the potential benefits of such a mission. Jake and Alira said their goodbyes, promising that this was just the beginning of their journey together, not the end. The Vorn ship ascended into the sky, leaving a trail of light against the dawn, while Jake and his team returned to their camp, their minds full of possibilities for the future. The story concluded with both Jake and Alira looking toward the sky from their respective worlds, contemplating the endless possibilities now laid before them. Their partnership, begun in the wilderness and cemented through adversity, promised a new horizon for interspecies relations, showcasing that compassion and understanding can indeed flourish across the stars.